Hi, guys. Another book review for you today. I have to admit this is going to be a pretty short one because when I finished this probably 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, I didn't have a lot to say about it when I finished it. But, of course, the whole goal of me keeping this channel is to try to force me to think through some of the things that I'm reading about and at least say a few minutes worth of something that I hope people interested in the book may find important in considering whether they want to read it for themselves or not. Here's the book. It's called 1848, Year of Revolution by, I'm guessing it's Mike Rapport, or possibly Mike Rapport. The year 1848 is actually a pretty interesting year, especially for anyone in Europe who might be having to watch this. In the United States, it's less recognized, of course, but in Europe, all over Central and Western Europe, there were a series of revolutions in several countries, which I'll be talking about in the body of the review, which just sort of spread like wildfire. It actually continued a little bit into 1849, but the vast majority of this just happened within 12 to 14 months. And it's a really amazing and impressive year simply because of the number of revolutions that were sparked, and maybe not because of the actual political change that this set off, but because of the social and cultural change that it actually helped to begin. This book is what you might call a general interest history for the events that happened in Europe in 1848. And what started in Sicily, and it did start in Sicily, quickly spread all over Europe, to France, Germany, the Austrian Empire, the Italian states, Denmark, Wallachia, Poland, and several other places. While almost no structural or political change, as I said, actually took place as a result of these revolutions, and therefore they're often considered by historians to be somewhat of a failure, simply because they didn't actually overthrow the monarchies. Remember, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, for example, lasts well into the 20th century. It's often thought to be the historical location of the birth pangs of several European nationalisms. For example, the birth of European national literature and all the other sort of nationalistic aesthetics that pop up with that. And while some of the first nationalisms, I should say, can be located here, they may have also been responsible for tearing these revolutions up along ethnic and cultural lines, as the author actually talks about. Revolutionaries had to build functional constitutions and then had to get monarchs to actually recognize them, often in the face of the fact that these monarchs couldn't be bothered with even recognizing that they existed. And at the same time, they also had to avoid, in these revolutions, the problem, which seemed ubiquitous, of radical sectarianism. You know, you have these sort of moderate radicals, and then you have these radical radicals who want to, who have a completely different vision of what the revolution should look like. And unfortunately, because of all the countries and all the people that are involved, both in the history and in the writing and the telling of the book, it can seem like a rush to mention all of the important conflicts, places, and dates. Because the revolutionary dynamic is largely similar any place that the author happens to be discussing it in, the conflicts kind of run together. But admittedly, I did set this down several times for a few weeks on end, which couldn't have helped with my reading comprehension and sort of keeping things straight. But this is a 400-page book or so, and he's discussing a lot of important people, a lot of important places. As you can tell from the list of the countries that I just read off, we're jumping all over Europe here. So and every single revolution and location has its own cast of characters, important battles, political figures. So it can get a little confusing at times. Rapport writes well enough, I guess, but he doesn't make it easy, unfortunately, or overly enjoyable, or readable. And I think he could have made them all three. He could have made the book all three. And to be honest, the book was kind of hey dry. It's not fun to read. I was going to say that the information was well presented, but I don't even know what that means in a book of history if it's not engaging and at least to some degree reader friendly, that provides some sort of overarching narrative that makes it easily accessible for the reader. And unfortunately, as much as I learned from reading the book, it's neither one of those things. Not reader-friendly, not terribly accessible, dry. It's just not a fun book to read, to be honest. But I've always been one of those people that can't put a book down, even if I don't like it at all. And I'm really trying to fix that. So if anyone knows a better recounting of the revolutions of 1848 in Central and Western Europe, please let me know in the comment section. And as always, leave comments on what you thought of the review. Not that there was that much to say this time, but I wanted to say something anyway. 1848, The Year of Revolution by Mike Rapport.